Hey guys, GhazzyTV here with another YouTube video for crafting gear for specific builds or for profit. I'm going to talk about how to craft the juicy Spectre shield. Basically, there's a couple of different ways you can do this, and first I want to mention a couple of things when it comes to low-budget versions of this, and one of them is the fact that you can use a Victorious Charity. This is a very cheap shield, only costs about a Chaos Orb, I believe, in the current state of the market. All you do is search for Victorious Charity, and you can see that you can purchase a shield like this for, well, basically a Chaos Orb. The problem with this is that you don't get power charges on a single target because that's only on kill, but you do get 3 frenzy charges to the minions, which is the crucial point for them. I would personally use Necromantic Aegis with it because it gives all the minions a better uptime of these charges, but it's a matter of personal taste. However, as soon as you start looking into crafting things for profit or crafting a bigger shield for this kind of build, you don't have to go crazy the way I did it in the current league with the shield shown here on the left-hand side. The ordinary way is to basically purchase a Crusader and a Redeemer shield of proper item level. And when I mean proper item level, I am talking about the requirements for frenzy and power charges. So for a Redeemer shield, for example, you need an item level of 80, and I believe it's the same thing for the power charges from Crusader, which is item level 80. So basically you purchase 2 shields. And the way the Awakener Orb works, which is currently priced at 500 Chaos, and the Exalteds are about 150, so that's a couple of Exalteds for the Awakener Orb, is that you basically craft with alterations each shield separately to have one of these modifiers. Let's say the Crusader, you're going for the power charges. What's very important when you do this is that it cannot have any other modifiers of the Crusader pool. In this case, the prefix cannot be any of those 2, because the Awakened Orb will take the influence as well as one of the available influence modifiers on the shield, and then it will place that onto the other shield, and that shield will be kept, and the modifiers on that will do the exact same thing, where you can only have one of the influenced modifiers. So in the Redeemer's case, you want the frenzy charge, so you don't want any of these modifiers at all when you alteration craft it. And that's how you basically combine it, and you end up with random modifiers, such as the other suffixes can be a bad one that you can't get rid of deterministically with harvest crafting, or you can get some random trash prefixes, doesn't really matter, and you'll end up with a shield like this, which is perfectly fine to start with. However, when it comes to crafting something like this, there's a few things in mind. First one, to get the cold damage per percent increased cold damage roll, you have to do this on an intelligence based shield, so it has to be an ES based shield to get to this point. That's step number 1. To get tier 1 cold damage, if you then look at cold damage, if I can find it, it's over here. Go to cold damage, tier 1 tool has a extremely low weight. I do believe that this is the hardest modifier to roll in terms of weight value in the entire game, and it requires item level 84. So if you look at my shield, I have an 84 shield. So that's the item level required to roll this modifier. Now the problem with this is that this is very, very hard to roll. And the easiest way to determine how to get to that base, the cheapest route, is to look at Exile website. Obviously all of these links will be in the descriptions below. My suggestion when crafting a shield like this is to Woke Orb the influences and then scour the shield and then craft it. So if you then look at Craft to Exile and we go to Offhands, Intelligence Shield, and we look for the increased cold damage, tier 1, and look at alterations, you can see that there's an average usage of 5,900 alterations before you were hitting it, which is why I would not suggest trying this out with doing the remove/add cold craft from Harvest League in the current league. So I would recommend that you actually alteration craft it. There is another way, which is obviously to use fossils, at which point it will most likely tell you to use frigid fossils to get to the point with the T1 cold damage. Maybe frigid together with sanctified. We'll see the numbers here in a second. So as you can see here, the frigid would cost a little bit less currency and has an average try of 331 frigid before you hit the T1. Obviously, like I mentioned before, when you do this, you have to make sure that you think about the other mods. And in this case, you want to make sure that you place yourself in a position where you can get the other modifiers with harvest crafting. So the best way to do this, if we then set our shields up with T1 cold damage and then suffixes, we do it this way, right? So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you have deterministically able to remove the other prefixes, because suffixes can always be removed by something like reforge item keep prefixes. till you get mods that you can actually work with. So that's the only problem when it comes to this. However, when you are alteration crafting, that's not a problem. So what you do is you augment the suffix modifier, which obviously doesn't matter, and then you regal it and you pray you get a suffix roll. If not, hopefully a mod that you can remove. Otherwise, you'll have to annul it or use a bestiary craft to get rid of it. And then what you want to do at this next point, step 2, is basically fill up the T1 cold, and then suffixes. You want to fill this up with something, something, and something. Doesn't really matter, whatever you get will be fine. So at this point, you have a full suffix shield with a T1 cold. You can get this with augmenting harvest crafts. Bench craft would even work as a block. And at this point, you want to use the craft augment influence mod. And when you do an augment influence mod, it will then hit the prefix on either Crusader or Redeemer, which will be any of these modifiers. Obviously, the one we're looking for is this modifier right here with increased damage per 1% chance to block damage. So if this fails, which it most likely will, because you have a higher chance and probability of hitting this modifier, because it's 3 different tiers, and also the max cold res has a higher value than the value of this one as well as this one. All of them are higher probability to hit than this. So if it fails, you will then take it to the next step, which is basically remove, add influence mod. Once you get this modifier, you will take the next prefix, and basically the step 3 will then make the shield look like this. Prefixes is T1 cold damage, the block attack damage increase, open, suffixes, filled, and filled. So the next step in this case here is basically you want to fix the last portion of this. What you want to do is obviously get the cold damage as extra chaos. Now, since you can't re-roll crafts with cold damage or cold modifiers because that might impact your cold damage, you want to augment chaos. So you basically augment chaos, which will give you one of these modifiers, and then you will re-roll it, remove, add chaos till you hit the T1 cold as extra chaos. Now, when you want to randomize the numerical values, you can use Divine Orbs. You can also use randomized Chaos values to get this one sorted, and you can randomize Cold to get the T1 Cold sorted, and the Influence doesn't have any other numerical changes. Now, when this part is done, what you want to do is empty the suffixes, either through purging it off with Harvest Crafts or reforge item, keep prefixes till you get 1 or 2 mods you can remove with Harvest. Doesn't really matter. So you want to purge the suffixes. And the next step after this is that your prefixes are basically, they're done. So now we're only looking at suffixes. So you want to have one open for bench crafting double damage, and you want to get the power and frenzy charges. So if you look at crit modifiers, you can get crit strike chance for spells, and you can also get, let's see where it is. There it is, minimum power charges. So what I would recommend to do in this case, since there's only 2 different crit mods that can roll the suffixes, is obviously block with spell crit craft on the bench craft to the shield, and then you augment crit craft. Now, if you don't get 2 power charges from doing this, which is a high probability, it's a 50-50 that you get 2 or 1. If you only get 1, you have to remove your bench craft and then remove add crit roll, which might give you the crit strike chance to spells, to then do it again. Or you can remove your benchcraft and use remove crit and then put the benchcraft in again and do augment crit till you do get 2 power charges. So that would be step 4. Next step after this is very simple. We do the exact same thing, because now we have 1 suffix sorted, and that is speed modifier. There is 1 being cast speed, so you do the same thing here. You block cast speed, and then you augment speed. Augment speed will allow you to get the 2 frenzy charges. However, it's the same thing with the power charges. You might hit the +1, which you don't want. At which case, you will either remove add crit, cast speed or speed modifier by removing your block first, or you remove your block and remove the speed, apply the block again, and augment speed, and rinse repeat this process till you get 2 frenzy charges. And then after that, you just want to finish the numerical values on the shield and then benchcraft with double damage till you get 5%. So that's basically the steps of how to craft this. It is extremely annoying to hit T1 cold damage on a shield like this, but it is a very, very large portion of the damage of a build like the one I'm playing right now that is currently doing about 160, 170 million shaper DPS, and this shield is a large portion of that. I can show you how big it is by basically taking the shield here. My Spectres are currently in this version doing 33.5 million Shaper DPS each, and by removing this, I will go down all the way down to 15 million. So this is basically 50% of all the damage this build is doing, which is pretty crazy. It's a fun craft, but that's basically how you do it, and the low budget version's available as well. And I'll leave the links in the descriptions to, well, this build guide as well as the tools I used to describe the crafting for this. So, hit the like button, subscribe for more content. Until next time, boys, stay safe and keep rocking.